Thank you. Looks like we've got everyone back. So good evening and welcome to our City Council meeting, regular meeting for December 7th, 2020. And I'll now call this meeting to order with a roll call from Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Miller?
Here.
DeBoer?
Here.
Cruz?
Here.
Harding?
Here.
Dara?
Here.
Sires?
Here.
Dunn?
Here.
All members present, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Our first item tonight will be the approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve our regular meeting of November 16th?
So moved. Second.
A motion and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? That carries. And are there any agenda revisions tonight, Madam Clerk?
I have no agenda revisions, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. To start, I'll say also that we're meeting tonight virtually to prevent the spread of COVID-19, and this meeting is being held in accordance with the provisions of the Iowa Public Information Board. So next, I have two presentations, proclamations that I'd like to issue tonight. I'll share my screen here. First is Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. Whereas at dawn on Sunday, December 7th, 1941, the U.S. Pacific Fleet was attacked at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii by the Empire of Japan, suddenly and without warning. And whereas 334 American sailors, soldiers, airmen, and civilians were killed, and another 1,143 wounded in this surprise attack. And whereas following the attack, thousands of young men and women bid their families farewell and entered the U.S. Armed Forces to protect their homeland. And whereas the city of Cedar Falls and the University of Northern Iowa, known then as the Iowa State Teachers College, saw an influx of thousands of Americans, tens of thousands of Americans, and especially women, as they trained on the college campus to become Army Air Force yeomen, Navy waves, and Coast Guard spars. And whereas December 7th, 2020 marks the 79th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor and the entry of the United States into World War II, and whereas annual commemorations of the attack on Pearl Harbor are important for ensuring that the citizens of Cedar Falls appreciate the selfless acts of service of those Americans who served in the U.S. Armed Forces during World War II. Now, therefore, I, Robert M. Green, Mayor of Cedar Falls, do hereby proclaim December 7th, 2020 as Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day throughout the city. And I encourage all citizens to remember and reflect on the tremendous sacrifices made by men and women during World War II to liberate our brothers and sisters abroad from the forces of tyranny and oppression. Signed this third day of December 2020, Mayor Robert M. Green. And the second proclamation I have tonight is International Human Rights Day for December 10th. And it states, whereas on December 10th, 1948, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, a highly influential document which is credited with reducing human suffering and improving the daily lives of millions by affirming the enduring universality of its values of equality, justice, and human dignity. And whereas the Universal Declaration is based on the proposition that each person is entitled to a full range of human rights and that it is each person's responsibility to uphold them. And whereas the city of Cedar Falls, located on land of indigenous people, has been built by generations of settlers and inhabitants, including visitors, immigrants, refugees, and asylees, who have worked together to create a community where people can live and work without fear of discrimination. And whereas the city of Cedar Falls has committed itself to these values by adopting policies to provide equal opportunity for its residents and visitors for participation in local governance, employment, housing, and public accommodation without regard to race, religion, color, national origin, ancestry, disability, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, familial status, or veteran status. Now, therefore, I, Robert M. Green, Mayor of Cedar Falls, do hereby proclaim December 10th, 2020 as International Human Rights Day throughout the city. And I encourage all residents to work together in the coming year to achieve even greater progress in respecting, protecting, and fulfilling the full range of human rights contained in the Universal Declaration for all members of our community. Signed this 12th day of November, 2020, Mayor Robert M. Green. So with that, is any council discussion or comment on those two proclamations? Okay, so heading back to my agenda here. All right. So under old business, we have item 3, pass ordinance 2976, amending section 26118 of the Code of Ordinances by rezoning from C3 commercial and R4 multiple residential districts to C3 commercial district of property located in the vicinity of West 22nd Street and College Street upon its second consideration. Is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Second.
The motion and seconded. I'll open it for continued council discussion. Is there? Okay, thought I saw a hand there. Is there any discussion from the public on this item? And I've learned to wait a few moments here because sometimes it takes a little longer to get out to the public to hear that. And I'm seeing none. So it's been motioned and seconded, and this requires a roll call vote.
Dara,
Aye.
Sires,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
DeBoer,
Aye.
Cruz,
Aye.
Harding,
Aye.
all voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That brings us to item 4 under old business, which is a resolution extending the face mask mandate for the city of Cedar Falls. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and seconded. Before going to council discussion on this, I would just ask for Mr. Gaines if you could provide a brief update of what this item entails.
So Mayor, as we discussed at 6 weeks ago approximately, this is a mask mandate that the city council's previously approved, and it will expire on December 9th. And so moving forward with a mask mandate that will now expire June 20th of 2021.
January 20th.
Or January, I'm sorry, of 2021, approximately 6 weeks from now. And there's some additional language in there with regard to the governor's proclamation. And if the governor would have a proclamation, how her proclamation would supersede our particular ordinance here, or resolution, I'm sorry. So.
Okay, so it would be the exact same stipulations as the 2 previous readings, but just with an extended date. So I did speak with the county public health director about this, and none of the guidance has changed from the county public health level. So they still strongly promote mask wearing as an effective means to reduce the spread of coronavirus, just as in the past 2 passages of this. So with that said, I'll open it for council discussion and questions.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Cruz.
does this coincide with the date of the governor's by chance? Or is it our own length of time we chose?
So the governor's proclamation will expire on the 10th. Not knowing what she's going to do for extending it, we wouldn't know which date her new proclamation would go out to. So we chose, again, about a six week time period.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from council? Seeing none for now, I'll open it up for public comment and question. And I see TJ Frine. So if you could please give name and address for the record, please.
TJ Frine, 1319 Austin Way. I must have a quick question because the governor came out and said 2-year-olds instead of 5-year-olds, which was the original resolution for the city. So I want to see if I didn't get a chance to read it, see if that was updated and changed. And then I know there was some talk 6 weeks ago, very briefly, about adding a caveat or a deadline or end date of a treatment or a vaccine. That seems to be coming sooner rather than later at this point. So I didn't know if there was any way to add in an additional exemption for people that have received the vaccine. We're going to see, your frontline healthcare workers get it first, and then other first responders and such. So at that point, once you receive the vaccine, maybe we should look at exempting those people from a mandate as well. Just a couple of questions, and mostly just about the age change, because I know, like I said, the governor came down and said 2-year-olds, but the city resolution said 5. So just some clarification there, please. Thanks.
Certainly, and I can speak to that as far as the primacy or the fact that the governor's proclamation, by being state law, it overrides the city's stipulations. So because the state requires 2 years old, we can't then change to say that it's 5 years old. So is that a fair reading there, Mr. Rogers? Or anything to add to that?
All right, I was unmuting. You're right. When the resolution is not exactly coincidental with the governor's proclamation, that will prevail. However, if the governor's proclamation is not extended, just for clarification for Mr. Frine, then 5 years would be the standard in Cedar Falls.
Okay, thank you. And anything else from the public? Any other questions from public?
Mayor, regarding the vaccine
Yes, please.
that he was asking about, I was wondering if Councilwoman Dunn doesn't have a take on that. If you
Well,
get-
and I would like to hold for, since that could be an internal conversation about the value of doing that. I'll wait until we finish with public comment, and then I'll bring it back to council. So you will definitely address that, Councilmember Miller. Thanks. So anything else from the public for questions on this? Then yes, for Councilmember Dunn, can you provide any insight or on the vaccine timeline and delivery?
I don't know when exactly we're getting it around here. I had today off, so things might have changed today as far as what was communicated at work. But as far as the vaccination, any vaccination usually has a time frame. I mean, you don't get the vaccine and immediately have immunity. And this vaccination, depending on which one we get, but from what I've heard, both of the drug companies, it'll likely be a 2-dose series. So I think what we need to remember as citizens of Cedar Falls is that we're going to need to listen to the experts, which is our county health department. Just because you get a vaccine doesn't mean that you're going to be able to run rampant. It might be that you get a vaccine and you go and get the second part of the vaccine and you wait for your immunity to build up for yourself. But because we don't know how it's going to roll out, we might be waiting a while for everybody to be able to have access to that vaccination. So I feel like it's good to have the conversation, but in the end, we need to listen to the people who are experts. And so I assume that we will take a lot of that determining how we'll proceed with that from our county health department.
And I do see, even though we brought it back to council, I see that we have a hand raised from Mr. Skane. And so because of the technology and the difficulties there, I will allow him to speak on this item. So Mr. Skane, if you could give name and address for the record, please, and the floor is yours, sir.
Yes, Jim Skane, 2215 Clay Street.
Hey, Mr. Skane.
Yeah, I have a comment because I have noticed that there is no clear obeying of the mandate as I watch people pass my house. And I was wondering if the public safety officers could assist in helping the public conform, not necessarily from the standpoint of punishing them, but identifying when people don't have a mask, and if they don't have a mask, providing one to them. This, I think, would help. But right now, it's very clear that people who are outside don't realize the danger that they're in, and it would be good if there was some way to just inform them and maybe provide them with a mask, because that could be a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Skane. We did address this in a previous reading when we passed this last time, that the mask resolution is for if people cannot be 6 feet apart outdoors, or if they're people from outside the same household. So without knowing the particular case, it's certainly acceptable for family members to be walking together outside without wearing masks, or for people, 2 members of the same household could be roommates, college roommates on College Hill. So it'd be very difficult to get into that situation to explain why they're wearing or not wearing a mask. And additionally, the health implications of it too. They may have a medical reason not to. So it is very important to have discretion and a sense of concern for others, but also we need to appreciate that there may be reasons somebody can't wear a mask, or if they're not 6 feet apart, they may be, again, family members or roommates. So anyone from council, since we are done with the public questions, any council want to discuss further on this item before voting?
I guess I'd have a quick question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Cruz, please.
I had a question posed to me I thought was rather interesting. A person had COVID, recovered. They said, do I need to wear a mask any longer? Do I need to get the vaccine any longer? Because, there's the unknown how good and how long the vaccine will last, or how long the antibodies will be. And so I guess that's kind of a gray area. I didn't know what to tell the person, but I don't know if anybody would want to comment on that.
Can
I comment?
Yeah, certainly, Kelly.
Because I actually had somebody ask me the same question. So I think we need to realize that we are still learning. I mean, what are we, in the 8th month of this? Data is still collected. So as far as, sometimes people call and they want the antibody testing, and what does that mean? Or because I've had COVID, am I immune to it? That hasn't been, that's not data that's been put out. And those questions haven't been answered by the CDC or the experts in this situation. So, and the other thing is it doesn't mean that you couldn't, first of all, there is documentation of people having COVID more than once. And it doesn't mean that you can't carry the disease. So I think that's what we need to always remember. That's the reason why we have a mask mandate. And that's why we say that both parties need to wear a mask, because it's really the mask is protecting, giving you some protection, maybe depending on your mask that you're wearing, but it's protecting each other. I don't think we have the answers to those questions. That data is not available yet. I think we're still right now just trying to get the vaccination. And I think the main thing though is to listen to the people who are the experts. Social media has an opinion, somebody's cousin had something, but we need to make sure we're listening to the experts. And in this case, in our area, it is our county health department.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, so this item has been motioned and seconded, and as a resolution, this requires a roll call vote.
Vera,
Aye.
Sires,
Nay.
Dunn,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
DeBoer,
Nay.
Cruz,
Hey,
Harding,
Aye.
4 voting aye, 3 voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That brings us over to new business, and that's our consent calendar, which the following items will be acted upon by a voice vote on a single motion without separate discussion, unless someone from the council or the public requests that a specific item be pulled separately. With that, we have items 5 through 8. Does any council member wish to pull an item 5 through 8? Okay, seeing none. Does anyone from the public wish to pull an item 5 through 8? You can press *9 on your phone or the raise hand icon. I'll give that just a moment here. Okay, seeing none, I will now read these items. Oh, actually, I see Mr. Skane. So go ahead, Mr. Skane. Which item would you like to pull, sir?
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Skane, go ahead, sir. Which item would you like to pull tonight?
I just want to make a statement. I have tried.
Asking if you'd like to pull item 5 through 8, sir.
I know. I'm talking about 5 through 8.
Mr. Skane, which item would you like to pull, 5 through 8?
I'm trying to get it out.
One of 4 numbers.
Okay. I'm not going to pull any of the numbers because this whole process is
So Mr. Skane decided not to pull any numbers, which means I will now read 5 through 8, which is filing the work council work minutes of November 16th relative to a joint work session with the Human Rights Commission. Item 6 is receiving and filing a communication from the Civil Service Commission for their certified list of a public safety officer. Item 7 is receiving and filing monthly reports for October 2020. And item 8 is approving the following applications for beer permits and liquor licenses. So is there a motion to approve items 5 through 8?
Moved.
Second.
The motion and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That passes. And just state with these meetings, I have to be very careful to keep us on track with the agenda. And in the past, Mr. Skeen has sought to derail the process. And I'm certainly happy to have any member of the public or council pull an individual item for discussion. That's what the consent calendar is for. But consistently, he has sought to subvert that process, and I simply can't allow that. So with that, that moves us over to the resolution calendar, and that is items that can be pulled upon or acted upon by a roll call vote in a single motion without separate discussion, unless someone from the council or public requests that a specific item be considered separately. Does anyone wish to pull an item 9 through 17 from council?
Number 14, Mayor.
Number 14, okay.
10.
10 from Councilmember DeBurr.
19 and 20.
19 and 20 from Councilmember Sires.
Those are
They're ordinances.
those are ordinances.
Yeah, those are after. So we're only looking at 9 through 17.
Okay.
Okay, any others from council and from the public? So I see Mr. Skane's hand. Okay, good evening, Mr. Skane. I've got you unmuted. So if you would like to speak on or pull an item 9 through 17, you're welcome to, sir.
No, I didn't have my hand raised for that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so I'll read these items minus 10 and 14. So item 9 is a resolution approving and adopting a job classification for civil CAD technician. Item 11 is a resolution approving the certificate of completion for the CDBG sidewalk infill project. Item 12 is a resolution approving the certificate of completion and accepting the work of Cunningham Construction Company for the South Main Street parking lot project. It's great to not have that a mud pit anymore. It's really beautiful. Item 13 is a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a maintenance and repair agreement relative to a stormwater management plan at 7404 University Avenue. Item 15 is a resolution setting December 21st, 2020 as the date of a public hearing for the West 27th Street Sewer Extension Project. Item 16 is a resolution setting December 21st, 2020 as the date of public hearing for a consolidated annual performance evaluation report. And then item 17 is a resolution setting December 21st, 2020 as the date of public hearing for proposed amendments to Chapter 20. Is there a motion to approve those items minus 10 and 14?
So moved. Second. I have a quick question, a point of order, Mayor.
Okay, point of order, go ahead.
Just for clarification, since number 14 was pulled, would we need to pull number 15 before voting on it, just in case?
No,
No?
they're not the same.
Okay, all right, got it. Sorry. Thanks.
Good question. So the motion and seconded, and this requires a roll call vote.
Dara,
Aye.
Sires,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
DeBoer,
Aye.
Cruz,
Aye.
Harding.
Aye.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And that brings us back to item 10, which is a resolution approving and adopting the public meeting protocol during the COVID-19 pandemic. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
The motion and seconded, and I understand Councilmember DeBoer had a comment or question?
Well, I pulled that. We've gotten some emails from the public regarding this as to just questions regarding it. And I just wanted to make sure that people know I am willing to come in, but I'm more concerned about the safety of the city employees.
Okay, so is that just a comment, or do you have questions for staff about it?
The question from the emails that we got was, how did we have this as a resolution since we couldn't do things at goal setting as far as motions? I believe is how they worded it.
Well, I'll open it up for staff comment on that.
Mayor, I can maybe start the discussion and see if anyone else has any comments. But yeah, I think, at goal setting, I think we heard consensus and drafted the resolution on what we heard there and what protocol to follow. And you may recall during the meeting, I think City Administrator Gaines mentioned, obviously the next meeting, we won't have the resolution yet, but do we want to follow the practice starting immediately? And I think we thought we heard consensus if that's what council wanted to do, since we were still under high. But you're right. I mean, officially tonight with the passage of the resolution would be the protocol we're following. But again, that's what I think we understood from the conversation at goal setting.
And as we're looking tonight, this is the opportunity for the public to comment, and they've had the opportunity to contact council members and me about concerns regarding this. So it's not as if this is being brought forward secretly for approval. So anything else from staff to elaborate on that decision? Okay, so other questions, Councilmember DeBoer, or was that?
No, I was trying to follow up regarding that email.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from council on this item? Councilmember Derrick, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Kelly. I'll be quick. I just wanted to thank Susan for her comments on this. Coming into the council chambers, we'd all like to be there, but doing it out of respect for staff, I think, is the same reason we're wanting to have a mask mandate. You may not want to wear a mask, but out of respect for those people who have those concerns, we wear them. So I appreciate Susan's comments on that.
Yeah, and I asked Dr. Agboni about the timing for getting back down from high, and the way that the county's litmus test works for this is that it has to be below or fewer than 100 cases per 100,000 in the last 7 days. So that's one of the parts, but also we have to be below 10 on the positivity scale. So right now we're at 13.4, I believe, and our actual average is much lower. I think it's in the 60 cases per 100,000, but because there's been a day recently where it was more than 100, that sort of restarts that clock as well. So looking at that, it could be a significant amount of time before we're back under that level, maybe into January, but that's just conjecture. Councilmember Dunn, you had a question or a comment?
Well, I was just going to echo, I appreciate Councilwoman DeBoer's comments as well. We all would prefer to be in council chambers. I'm certain of that. But we are in the middle of a pandemic, and I think that's part of the reason why we had to move the way we've moved. this isn't something you want to wait on because your actions today affect a week or two out. So I don't think that it's that we don't want to be there, but we needed to have direction. We needed to look out for staff, and we needed to have direction for staff at our last goal setting.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll open it up for the public as well. So if the public has a comment at this point or a question, you can press *9 on your phone, or else the raise hand icon on your device. And I'll wait for a moment for that as well. I've learned it sometimes takes about 10 to 12 seconds for our words to get out to people through channel 15. Okay, and seeing none then, I will entertain any final comments from council or question before moving to a roll call vote.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just one final comment as pertaining to the email about it coming out of goal setting. Actually, I believe this didn't just come out of goal setting. This was actually a referral that I brought up in, I want to say, November. It was a referral to have staff bring forward a resolution on the policy, our pandemic or COVID policy, meeting policies. And so to say that this came about because of goal setting, I think is a little misleading because it was a referral. So we just mentioned it at goal setting to kind of talk about it more.
Good point. Very good point. Okay, so if no other comments for this item, it's been motioned and seconded and requires a roll call vote.
Dara,
Aye.
Sires,
Nay.
Dunn,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
DeBoer,
Nay.
Cruz,
Nay.
Harding,
Aye.
4 voting aye, 3 voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and that'll take effect for our next council meeting. And that brings us over to item 14, which is a resolution receiving and filing and approving the plans, specifications, and estimate of cost for the Union Road Recreation Trail project, West 12th Street to West 27th Street. Is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
The motion and seconded. Councilmember Sires, you had a discussion point for this, sir?
No,
I
I
did.
believe Mr. Miller did.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was thinking of the other part. Yes, Councilmember Miller, go ahead.
Yeah, for staff, I was looking at the layout of this, and I'm just wondering long-term with how growth is happening out here. If the speed limit out there on Union Road's 45 miles an hour, and we've done this in the past on other roads where after the fact, once the neighborhood kind of develops around a road, we end up trying to find ways to reduce the speed on a roadway. And I guess I was wondering from staff, I mean, is a long-term plan on Union Road for that to stay a 45 mile an hour stretch? And I guess the reason with this would be if that trail could or should be moved closer to the road as a traffic calming measure in the long term, or what I just want some reassurance. I received some comments from one of the neighbors out there and wanting to see the speed reduced on Union Road, and didn't know if something could happen here that would affect that long term.
So maybe I'll start and then I'll have Chase jump in. But if you recall in the CIP, I think it's year 24 or 25, is Union Roads up for reconstruction in that time period. And that's really a time that we can design in some of the traffic calming features at that time.
Okay.
Any other discussions or comment from council?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Sires, go ahead.
I grew up around in that area. It'd be nice if that became a 4-lane eventually. It's going to carry a tremendous amount of traffic. It's kind of the bypass around the western edge of Cedar Falls. Just the speed does seem excessive as a 2-lane, but eventually if we made that into a nice 4-lane, not a high speed 4-lane by any means, but it would be nice eventually. And then that would go straight down south to the industrial park. So at that time, when they upgrade that street, it would be nice to have that be 4-lane. So that's my only comment.
I'll open it also now to the public. If anyone in the public wants to speak on this item, you can press *9 on your phone or the raise hand icon. Okay, seeing none, this has been motioned and seconded and requires a roll call vote.
Dara,
Aye.
Sires,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
DeBoer,
Aye.
Cruz,
Aye.
Harding.
Aye.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And next that goes into our ordinances, which first is item 18, passing an ordinance amending Chapter 12, Human Relations of the Code of Ordinances relative to the Human Rights Commission upon its first consideration. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
The motion and seconded. Open it for council discussion. Or actually, is there a staff a presentation or any information staff would want to provide? It seemed fairly self-explanatory, and we have discussed it in goal setting or in work session.
I don't think so unless there are any questions, Mayor.
Okay, so yeah, these changes will update the code so that it takes out the language that's already duplicated at the state level, and then also changes the expectations for the Human Rights Commission so that rather than being an investigatory body, it's a outreach and education body. So any questions from council on this item?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Derrick, go ahead.
It is a question. I'm supportive of the amendment, but hopefully this won't be, I've really felt good about our dialogue with the Human Rights Commission the last time. And when you sit down and think about it, it was really maybe one of the first real dialogues we've had with that group. And knowing that they're in a state of transition, I'm kind of hoping that we'll be having maybe opportunity to have even a joint work session or some other opportunities to reach some common understanding of what their role is and where this organization is headed. I think it has a really important role in our community. And I think for all of us to kind of be involved in that, I hope that's somewhere in the offing. And maybe I'm jumping the gun and we already have it planned.
Yeah, so that is in the works, and we are bringing in 3 new members due to 3 vacancies. So once those members are in place, once they've been appointed, then we will have those it's kind of joint discussions. I agree, it was very helpful to have that dialogue in an open setting last time around as well. So
Okay, super, thank you.
And I'll open it now or give a heads up for public. If anyone from the public wants to speak on the item, go ahead and press *9 or raise hand icon on your phone. And while we're waiting, anything else from council on this item? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands from the public. So I will say that we've motioned and seconded, and this requires a roll call vote.
Dara,
Aye.
Sires,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
DeBoer,
Aye.
Cruz,
Aye.
Harding.
Aye.
All voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item 19 is passing an ordinance amending Chapter 23, Traffic and Motor Vehicles of the Code of Ordinances relative to the use of electric assist bicycles on city recreational trails upon its first consideration. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion seconded. For staff, is there any information additional you want to provide from what was in the packet?
No, if you recall, this was a presentation that was done at committee on October 19th. And the direction that was provided at that time was to allow all 3 classes of e-bikes, the use on recreational trails with the age limit restriction of 14.
Okay. Any questions from council on that item?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Cedar, please.
I did a little research into this. Well, what I did is I called my friend Jamie Mansfield, who's a huge bicycle rider. And he thought that to match Waterloo, it should only be 1 and 2. Number 2 will get up to 28 miles an hour and has its own throttle. So my worry is the safety of the people walking. And when my kids were little, we did an awful lot of bicycle riding down there at not a high speed. I'd like to see it reduced to only classes 1 and 2. I'd like to see it only pedal only, but that's only my own thought. I don't want to slow it down with an amendment. That's up to all of us. So that's my thought on it.
Mr.
Well,
Mayor.
that's good. I assume that there was going to be some discussion about this. So Councilmember Harding, let's have a good dialogue about it.
So only class 2 has throttle. Okay. So there's a lot of misconception about e-bikes out there. I would encourage everybody to go out and ride one. Class 2 has a throttle. Class 1 and 3 are pedal assist only. Class 1 is pedal assist up to 20 miles an hour. After that, you're on your own. Class 2 is throttle assist up to 20 miles an hour. After that, you're on your own. Class 3 is pedal assist only up to 28 miles an hour. After that, you're on your own. These are not like mopeds or anything crazy like that. They still take work to ride. They just help assist. And in fact, some of the newer e-bikes, you could look at them and you can't even really tell they're e-bikes. They're crazy how they're designed. It's not, it looks like a regular bicycle. I want people to be safe too, but I also don't want people to think it's like we're going out there with a moped on the trail and just clicking a throttle and going 30 miles an hour on the trail. So, and I'm up for the dialogue to talk about it too. I'm not against the dialogue. I just want to make sure that we're all looking at the same thing and we're all really going into it understanding exactly what the e-bikes are and what each tier is.
I'd like to ask about the enforcement end of it. So for Chief Birdie, have we dealt with issues with bikes on the trails yet? Of having to issue citations or anything like that?
No, not that I know of. And I would say we have very few problems out on the trails, period, with anything. So no, we haven't had any enforcement issues.
Talking with residents, the two things that I've heard as the biggest issues were failure to notify on passing. So people just getting blown by is a really jarring experience for them. Even if the rider thinks it's safe, the person doesn't like being shocked like that of a passerby. But whether that's a electric bike or just a pedal only bike, a traditional bike, you're still going to have the same issue. And you can easily get bicycles up above 20 miles an hour, especially the newer Specialized, without electric at all. So I think it's kind of a misnomer. I'm an electric bike rider too. And I always knew to keep it, my limit was 20, but I always knew that issue was making sure I was in a safe stretch. There was no one around if I was going to be at that full 20. So I'd like council to consider, maybe not as part of tonight's, but potentially look at speed limits as being the limiting factor. Have a 20 mile an hour speed limit on the trails, and potentially look at enforcing it if you have people that are just blowing by that, even with a Specialized at 40 miles an hour flying on, say, like the Green Hill Road Trail. So just as a thought to consider for the future.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Cruz.
I would agree with what you just said, and likewise, Councilman Sayers. I look at the recreational trails as being recreational. I don't know that necessarily, I suppose there's some commuting that can be done on those, but I think of people walking and jogging and running with their feet on the ground as opposed to pedaling a bicycle. If you got pedal assist or motorized assist bikes that can go over 20, you should be in the streets. The streets have speed limits up to 25, and we're talking, your road bikes geared to go much faster. They have no business being on a trail where people are walking with little kids that can get away from them. And, they're going to be wandering around and looking at the scenery around them. So I'm really uncomfortable endorsing any sort of pedal assisted bike of any kind that, like you say, 20. I mean, even that speed is excessive when there's a lot of pedestrians using the trail. So I don't know if there's much of a way you can distinguish between the residential trail and the open trail for cruising fast, or just go out on 27th Street and head to Dyke, I guess, if you really want to go 30, 40 miles an hour. You can wear yourself out there. There's nice hills out there you can do that on.
Councilmember Ryan.
20 miles an hour is fast, yes, but it's not really that difficult to get to 20 miles an hour on a regular bicycle. You don't need a pedal assisted bicycle. You know, I mean, you have people that are already riding bicycles on these trails well over 20 miles an hour. You're going to see people that are commonly riding e-bikes are generally people who just don't want to put in the same amount of effort and they just want to cruise, or elderly. Again, I'm not opposed to speed limits and I want safety to be an issue, but I ride my bike on those recreational trails safely, try to tell people I'm going to pass when I'm passing. And I average 13 miles an hour when I ride on those trails, and I'm not really pushing that hard. I'm just cruising and hanging out. I could easily go a lot faster. So I think, again, we're over exaggerating with what these e-bikes can really do. You know, it's not like you hop on it and you're just bam, zooming at 20 miles an hour. So, again, safety is paramount, and maybe looking at speed limits would be good and all. I just get worried that we're thinking people are going to jump on them and zip around, and we already have people going over 20 miles an hour on the trails that, you know, so are we just going to limit all bikers, you know, all hardcore bikers that ride all the time on the trails? We're going to say you can't ride there anymore because you go fast?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember DeBreer, go ahead.
When this was originally brought to us, it seemed to me like the staff recommendation was to allow two of the classes, but not the third, because something to do with it matched state code. I wonder if there could be an explanation on that. And second, my second question is, since these have a motor, are they required to be registered or insured?
Mr. Rogers, would you want to comment on the first part of that? That was
the recommendation from staff was class 1 and class 2 e-bikes to be allowed on the trails. And the reasoning there was an easy argument could be made that would comply with the state definition in the Iowa Code of a bicycle as opposed to a motorized bicycle. And it also aligned pretty well with neighboring jurisdictions. And so that's why the recommendation was made. Of course, council's free to make all three classes subject to the trails too. This is definitely a policy decision.
So the part of this ordinance that allows the class 3 is 2B? 2A would be class 1 and 2, and 2B would be class 3?
Let me pull it up real quick.
That's correct, Mr. Burr. The 28 miles an hour is referenced to class 3. So 2A is referenced to class 3, and 2B is classes 1 and 2.
I'm going to take the liberty of showing that on the screen here. Okay. Yeah, so there's the A, B, and C that she's discussing.
Yeah, so class 1 and 2 were combined there. So we didn't follow exactly all three classes spelled out. The only difference is one allows a greater speed. So let me say this. So subsection 2A would include class 1 and class 3, and subsection 2B would be class 2.
And that's because of the throttle, the operating the controls manually.
Exactly right.
Okay.
So you'd have to really reword A and B if you wanted to just do the class 1 and 2.
Yeah, we would have to take another hard look at it and do some redrafting.
And are they required to be insured or licensed? Since they have a motor?
I can comment on that. I mean, my electric bike, it's treated as a regular bicycle. So there's I'm not aware of any licensing or registration of the bicycle separate from our license, our city license that we require for all bicycles.
Same here.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Gunn, please.
Okay, so if I'm recalling right, one of the reasons why was there a way to tell the difference between the bikes? I feel like that was part of the reason why we said by looking at them, you wouldn't be able to tell what kind they were. Second, I am an avid user of the trail system. I am an avid complainer of people who don't announce themselves. I drill it into my children's head, this importance of safety on our trails. So I can totally appreciate the discussion of is it safe and how, but I feel like that discussion is we just have people, if maybe they're ignorant to the rules of the trail, or they just don't care to follow them. So I can appreciate, can you see me?
We can.
Okay. I can appreciate that discussion because I do get very upset as not only as a person, but as a parent when people just blow by. But I think we had before was that you couldn't tell the difference between the two. And then I think we had some other folks who, one of them being the owner of Bike Tech and another gentleman weighed in that I think we all maybe need to take Bike Tech up on their offer to try out an electric bike, because it doesn't sound like it is what we envision when we think of them. Because I was against the third category one at first, but then after listening to people who actually have rode the bikes, it changed, educated me, and now I feel like I'm understanding better what they do.
Mr. Mayor.
Well, and before doing that, there's that question about if you can physically tell the difference. You can see them at Shields and other bike stores in the area that they have, particularly the new Treks. The street Treks are about $1,200 to $1,500, and you can't physically tell the difference between the two of class 1 and class 3. Now with class 2, you can, because you have the little throttle on it. But 1s and 3s look identical. So somebody could own a 3 and be on the trail, and you wouldn't know unless they were actually doing the 28 miles an hour. Councilmember Cruz.
Yes, I guess for people that do a lot of bicycling, it's very common and it's understood on your left as you approach from behind. And many people know to move to the right when you're approaching from behind. But people that are unfamiliar with biking and would be on the trail, somebody yells on your left, and they're going to be standing on the left and looking on their left. They just don't know what to do. And I look at this, you're introducing faster moving two-wheeled vehicles into a environment that I think should be more walking, jogging, running. Now, there's some of the trails in town in the area would be appropriate for biking, of course, but I don't know, you almost get to a distinction there. Mm-hmm. Some trails shouldn't have that many bicycles on, it should be more for walking. And if you want to go over 15, it should be on a street. And so that's just my thought.
Okay, so that could be a follow-on discussion of whether we want to prohibit bikes on certain trails entirely or certain areas, because you'd have to say because of that speed limit consideration, is it meant for walking or is it meant for faster movement?
To that point, Mr. Mayor, I've been in some communities where there's sections of the bike trail where it says dismount and walk your bike as you go through a dense populated area. So
okay. Well, anything else as far as this ordinance is concerned that we need to ask questions on or comments? Because I feel like we're pretty much at a point we could vote on it and then know an up or down.
I was just like, can I make a comment, Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Darren, please.
I fully appreciate it. I was kind of where Kelly was initially, and we just wanted to approve the 2, 1 and 3. But it seems the strongest advocates for this are the people that Daryl's talking about, who ride their bikes a lot. They know the rules of the road. They say on your left, on your left. And those people also don't expect people who are walking. They've been on the trails enough to know that that's not a guarantee that they're going to be safe passing somebody. So to me, the people that are asking to have the faster bikes or the assisted bikes are also the more expert bikers who understand that they got to be a defensive biker just like you got to be a defensive driver. Mm-hmm. And so, I want to support the biking community. But I would encourage, since it was many of the bike shop owners and the hardcore bikers that were asking for this, that perhaps we ask them to make a more concerted effort at educating the public on how to share a trail. It's easy. It's just something that if they want to have that right to ride those bikes, then perhaps they can take more responsibility in ensuring that people understand the rules of the road, rules of the trails. So to me, I think we just move ahead with this, but do ask those people to step up and maybe help the job of educating or monitoring. Just a thought.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Cyrus.
I only have one thing to conclude. I love the bicycle trails, and I had so much fun with my kids when I pulled the 2 in the little carrier and had my son ride his bicycle, and our dog, who was like a sled dog, pretty much pulled me. So I had more like it was a dog assist, not electrical assist, but we loved it. And my other thing is I have a need for speed. I love speed. I like to go fast. I just don't want to mix these two. And that's where I'm cautious. I'd like to see people have their electric assisted bikes that could help them ride, but I also want to keep it safe for the young kids and the young families and the people walking. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you. And I didn't ask earlier for the public comment side, and I see that we do have Mr. Frein and Mr. Salentic with their hands raised. So I'll go ahead and call on them and give them their 5 minutes. So Mr. Frein, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that the difference between 1 and 3, you can't tell the difference. And then as far as trail safety goes, it kind of works in all directions. I mean, is it really safe to wear headphones on the trail while you're jogging? No, probably not. Do we still do it? Yes, we do. Could they be just as big a hazard as a bicyclist? Yes, they could. And I think, and there's mention of speed limits and that sort of thing. It just seems like we're not even giving this thing a chance to play itself out before we're already wanting to change it. So I'd be an advocate for all 3 classes being allowed on the trails. Nobody's saying you have to go 28 miles an hour or whatnot. And I believe that one of the guys that spoke at the committee meeting said it takes a considerable amount of effort to reach that speed. And he said he's only done it, I think he said, going downhill at a pretty steep slope. So I don't want to put all the trail etiquette on bicyclists. It's kind of for everybody. Everybody knows you stay on the right, but as a family, are we walking down the middle of the trail because we're 5 wide? Are we, stopping and looking at old scenery instead of getting off the trail to look? So I think all those things, it wouldn't become a problem for the bicyclists. Hazards are for everyone, and everybody's responsible for maintaining that safety on the trail. And then as far as, enforcing any kind of speed limit, it's nearly impossible in my opinion, and would be a considerable amount of waste of resources because those bicycles are not considered motor vehicles. Therefore, if a collision were to take place, it's not like you're working a motor vehicle accident. So I would stick with all 3 for now, instead of assuming that riders are going to be unsafe or do the wrong thing or they're not responsible. We need to give them the opportunity to be so. So I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. And I see Mr. Salentik's hand. So Mr. Salentik, name and address for the record, please, sir.
Jeremy Salentik, 1008 Rockland Street, Cedar Falls.
Salentik?
Okay, so I'm sure many of you have been on Center Street and seen, several years ago, they put in a bike lane on each side of the road. And, being concerned about the speed of these e-bikes when we're riding bikes on Center Street, and the speed limit's been lowered from 45 to 35, but I know there's several people that just don't even give that any consideration and still go 45 through there. So, I don't see these bikes as being a hazard. I don't think people are riding them with the intention of going fast. A lot of people that have physical handicaps are using the e-bikes to assist them with their continued riding. That's just my thought on it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Salentik. Okay, that was all for public speaking. So if there's anything else from council for questions or comments before roll call vote?
Can I ask another legal question?
Yes, please, Councilmember DeVere.
Since this ordinance goes beyond the staff recommendation and then the state guidelines, my question is, does that open us up for additional liability exposure?
Mr. Rogers, can you answer that one?
Sure. Not in and of itself. The question is whether or not the city has imposed any type of regulations that would foster accidents, but you've got several defenses to any mishap that might occur on the trails, including recreational activities. So distinguishing between class 1, class 2, and class 3 e-bikes, I do not believe would subject the city to any greater liability risk.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's been motioned and seconded. Without further discussion, I'm seeing this requires a roll call vote.
Kara,
Aye.
Sires,
Nay.
Dunn,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
DeBoer,
Nay.
Cruz,
Nay.
Harding,
Aye.
4 voting aye, 3 voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That brings us over to item 20 for the ordinances, which is passing an ordinance amending Chapter 23, Traffic and Motor Vehicles of the Code of Ordinances relative to prohibiting the parking of commercial trucks and trailers on residential streets upon its first consideration. Is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
It's been motioned. I saw a second there. So before going to council and public, and I'd also say now for the public, if you wish to comment on this item, go ahead and press *9 or the raise hand icon so I can see you once it's time. I would ask, since this is kind of detailed, for staff, could we have just a 30-second infomercial of what this entails tonight?
Sure, I can provide that, Mayor.
Thanks.
This was on referral from council. This is a topic that's come up three times now in the last 2 or 3 years, and it's a regulation addressing the parking of commercial vehicles on city streets and the city right-of-ways. And the last time that this matter was discussed, council gave the direction that it wished to see something addressed specifically to commercial vehicles. And there were questions raised about residential areas versus other areas. And through a couple surveys that were taken around town over a period of about a month and a half, and sort of a tally of the complaints that came from the public, all that was taken into consideration. And this ordinance was drafted with those in mind. We also got the definite impression that council wanted to see a simplified version of some sort of regulation. And so that was also taken into consideration as well. So essentially what this does is, in residential areas, which are defined in the ordinance, commercial trucks and commercial trailers may not be parked there unless engaged in activities in relation to nearby residences.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I'll open it for council questions or discussion. I'm seeing none.
I have
Oh, yes.
I have a question for Mr. Rogers.
Yes, sir.
Don't we already have a 5-ton, if you're licensed for over 5 ton, you can only be a delivery vehicle and drive around town? Anything licensed over 5 ton couldn't be on residential streets unless it was making a delivery the shortest distance to and the shortest distance away from. I thought we already had that. I see the signs up all over town, and I've always been very careful with my semi. It's a mobile home toter, to not go on those streets unless, well, I do it after Sturgis Falls, but that's about the only time. I'm very careful. Isn't this kind of a double law? That's my only question.
Yeah, I can't cite you to a specific ordinance section. It might be some sort of state embargo, but I'd want to look into that a little bit further before I gave you a definite answer on that. I see the signs as well, so there has to be a regulation on that, and that particular embargo would be in certain areas, I think on certain surfaces, but this is more limited to residential areas. So I think it's different, but there may be overlap.
That's all I was curious, because I always stay off those, and that would bring in the heavy commercial trailers, which I don't want parked on the streets either. But then the small contractor who has his trailer or his truck, then he'd be able to. That's my only purpose with that question. Thanks.
And my understanding with the contractors, the small purpose, that was if they're working on a project and they have a permit, they would be allowed to, right? Because that would be considered actively, I forget the terminology exactly, but they were engaged in their trade basically.
Right. It wouldn't be using the street as a parking lot in essence, because they're working there or nearby property.
Yeah, it's a work site basically. Any other questions or comments from council on this item?
What about if it was their home, with what Kevin just said? If it was the contractor's home, can he not park his own trailer in front of his own property?
This, as stated, it would prohibit that. Even in front of their own residence.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Cruz.
To respond to that, they have the option to park in their driveway, just like anyone else would. But I did, in the beginning stages of this, I interviewed several contractors that I knew, and they were very much in favor of this, that they felt that the street shouldn't be a parking lot for commercial vehicles, that they should be in a commercial lot or off the street somewhere. So I didn't find any resistance from any contractors that I visited with when we were going through this and designing it.
Okay, thank you for the insight. With that, I'll open it up for the public for now and then come back to council. So does anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Press *9 or the raise hand icon. I didn't see any when I put that call out earlier. Okay, I'm still seeing none. So any final comments or questions from council on this before the vote? Okay, so it's been motioned and seconded and requires a roll call vote.
Dara,
Aye.
Sires,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
DeBoer,
No.
Cruz,
Aye.
Harding,
Aye.
6 voting aye, 1 voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That brings us over to bills and payroll. Is there a motion to approve bills and payroll?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and seconded, and any council discussion? Or public discussion? Press *9 or hit the raise hand icon. Give that a moment here. Okay, seeing none, it's been motioned and seconded and requires a roll call vote.
Dara,
Aye.
Sires,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
DeBoer,
Aye.
Cruz,
Aye.
Harding,
Aye.
all voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That brings us over to council referrals. Does any council member have a referral to bring tonight?
I have a referral, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Harding, go ahead.
I would like to refer to a special meeting that staff bring forward a resolution proposed postponing or suspending of the paid lots
Okay, so
until
let's do that. And I should have been more careful. As we're bringing forward the referrals, we might as well just do the motion for it. So can you make that as a motion, and then we'll have it seconded for the discussion? So
Okay.
what would be your motion here?
My motion would be to have a special meeting to talk about the merits of suspending the parking paid parking lots during the COVID pandemic, or till staff put a date on it or something.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Open it up for council discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Cruz.
could I move to suspend the rules and discuss it right now and make a motion and a decision instead of having to postpone to another time? In just of helping with the COVID situation being a very unique event?
Mr. Rogers, are we allowed to do that since it wasn't on the agenda? Can we
No.
act forward?
No. Parliamentary rules will allow it, but open meetings laws would not.
Okay.
So this,
I
it sounds like
retract
it would be a meeting, like Mr. Rogers would require a separate meeting that's been broadcast to the public, and even have it potentially later this week to make a decision.
Sure, as long as there's 24 hours notice with the tentative agenda, it could be scheduled accordingly.
So we could have it Wednesday?
Yeah.
I've talked with staff about this and really done a lot of homework behind the scenes, and I think letting staff bring forward a resolution that they draft up that would be the best route to go for a meeting on Wednesday. We could actually vote on something that would and talk about the merits of it, of actually postponing or suspending. How, I'm not sure what the correct wordage would be, but yeah, I think putting a date on it would also be a good thing. I don't think we can say till the pandemic ends or anything like that, or let's just put a date on it, and basically it'll be one less thing that the businesses have to worry about. It takes it out of the equation to say.
Yeah, this is a unique situation because of the timeliness of it and wanting to have something sooner rather than later. Mr. Rogers, what would you think of having a work session to discuss it, like at 1 hour or amount of time, and then that same night after that build up or creating it, then vote on it that same evening? Or could we just all do it in one special meeting? Because I'm just concerned about having us get into the details of the code and really move it around and then approve it right then. I'm not sure what that looks like.
So this would be, yeah. So a couple things. First of all, it wouldn't require an ordinance change because this would just be a resolution on enforcement. And so no ordinance change necessary. So it could be done by resolution.
I'm seeing
That's
a
number one.
city clerk on that one. What do you think?
Well, it's not on enforcement, it's on paid parking.
So we're not going to enforce the paid parking requirement in certain lots.
Yes.
We're going to put a moratorium on enforcement. I don't know what that looks like exactly, but my point is.
Aren't we just talking about suspending
The fees for downtown parking.
the paid portion of the parking lot? That's what we're talking about, correct?
Yeah, then people could park in the new paid lots for free during the interval.
Yeah, I believe any place downtown is what the businesses have called me and asked me for. And when they ask for something and they don't ask very often, I think we should move on that.
Now, is that say we have the 3 hour lot or 3 hour parking, whatever, are you saying the goal would be to not even have anybody from the city look at any of the parking at all?
I don't know. We'll look into that before Wednesday. We can easily find out by then.
You got to continue to enforce the 3 hour time limit because you got to rotate people.
Absolutely.
Mayor, clarity. Since I made the resolution, or the motion, it was just to suspend the paid lots, not to take away enforcement. It was just to make those lots free to suspend or postpone the paid lots as we have implemented in October.
Okay.
For some set amount of time that staff thinks would be wise during the pandemic. Not to say it's a free-for-all for enforcement or there's no enforcement downtown. So however the staff deems that it would be wisest to word that in a resolution, my thought would be a special meeting with a resolution brought forward from staff so we can discuss it and vote on it that night.
Okay. And we don't necessarily need to talk about or shouldn't talk about the merits of that item or whether we should or not. It's that special meeting itself. I don't know if we need much additional discussion about having that meeting on Wednesday and having council bring forward a resolution. So
my only question is if staff can, given I assume it's going to be virtual again. I don't know how long it takes staff to get that set up. All that the law requires for notice is 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. So for Mr. Gaines, I'll kind of turn that over for you for the time frame of it. Could we put something together by Wednesday and for council to discuss in the evening?
Well, it'll be by Tuesday.
Oh, right. Well, you don't have, I guess you do have to have the details because it needs to be in the packet. Okay. So it's publishing the notice and saying what we're going to discuss, but do we actually have to have those items for discussion in the packet itself? Like, is that frozen in time?
No.
We do that as a courtesy.
So the law requires a general statement of the agenda items to be considered. Mm-hmm. So as long as the agenda item were worded correctly, I don't know that the ordinance itself would have to be in polished form, but
resolution.
It can always be changed at the council
resolution. Yeah, but I always caution against drafting on the fly. And so my preference would be to have some sort of draft in front of council to act on, and it could still be tweaked, a little bit, but I don't think we should just go in there whole cloth and start throwing around ideas, I guess.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Cyrus.
I have a question for Mr. Gaines.
Yes, sir.
Can't we just suspend enforcement until the meeting? Isn't there a way the mayor or maybe council majority can do that now? Suspend enforcement until the meeting on the paid lot?
Well, I could take the direction and direct staff that way, but at some point you still need to have a resolution just because this is an ordinance.
Correct. I just thought maybe we could get them started today because the downtown Main Street kind of was really pushing for this. So that's my only point there.
So what I'm hearing is the council wants to suspend enforcement for at least the next 2 days till after the Wednesday, and then we'll see what the direction is there.
Yes, if that's possible.
Is that legal for us to do, Mr. Rogers? I'm okay either way, but
council can't direct staff to do anything along these lines right now.
Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Miller.
I think we've already moved on from the work session idea, and that limits public interaction, correct?
Well, if we're not doing a work session, it's a special meeting, then the public would have the ability at that point to comment during the meeting. It's the work sessions that typically they don't have any input.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think the public should be allowed to speak here, and I guess I'm wondering if we do want to be this specific or if we don't want to direct staff to bring us some options that they think are the best way to move forward if we're going to do something here to avoid confusion, or do we want to, I'm wondering about an amendment, I guess, and I'll throw it out there to make an amendment to allow staff to bring us a recommendation as to which way do we go here, or
okay.
rather than being
the original motion was that was seconded was to have a special meeting. Councilmember Miller is putting a motion or amendment to have staff specifically provide options. Is that the best way to put it? Options.
Certainly.
I would second that. I think like Kevin said, going in blind is not good. So I would second the motion to amend it to say a special meeting that has a staff proposed option or recommendation.
Okay, so at this point, all we're doing is we're voting on the amendment itself. So is there any other discussion on that amendment? Motion and seconded for the amendment only before we go back to the original item that's amended. Is the motion is seconded? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
There's a 1 nay. So that puts us to having this special meeting that would have staff bring forward proposals, ideas, options for going forward. So any other discussion on that?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Dunn.
is this only for downtown? I know that's where a lot of, I think, communications came from, but would it also include the paid parking up on College Hill?
Well,
Yes, all paid parking. It was specified in the motion for paid parking.
and we didn't, well, it wasn't specified. It was very general. So
Yes.
we didn't specify to downtown. So it would include paid parking. And I don't think we have any other paid parking in Cedar Falls, correct? That's city, just you and I, that's not our property. So then, yeah, that's the case. Now, that's been motioned and seconded. Any additional discussion? So motion and seconded. And is this a roll call because it's a referral, or is this a voice vote?
Voice vote.
All right, so all in favor of, and I'll repeat it, all in favor of having a work session for Wednesday afternoon that would direct staff for a regular meeting to have staff bring forward options for ending or temporarily suspending parking enforced or paid parking requirements. Sorry, did I catch that effectively?
Yeah.
Good. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so we will have that meeting on Wednesday. We'll set a specific time. Tomorrow, the agenda will go out, and it sounds like we may have a draft of that, of some options available, but keeping in mind that may change on Wednesday. And normally we wouldn't do this, or we try to be much more prepared, but appreciating that there's a big time limitation here or concern, we're going to just take it as best we can and comply with state law. So that's
Comment, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Well, are there additional referrals?
No, I was just going to say about the timing of the meeting being later in the evening than earlier to facilitate normal days of work,
Right.
After 5 o'clock.
at least.
Yeah.
6.
I'd prefer 6 possibly on Wednesdays if possible, but I'll be there. I'll make it happen at 5 if we have to.
Okay, well, we can shoot for 6. So that's that item and any other council referrals tonight. So I'll bring it over to council updates. Any?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Derrick.
Yeah, forgive me, but I'm going to read this if it's okay.
I don't think I can stop you.
Last month, a great friend of our city passed away. Dave Whelan committed at least 20 years of involvement to city government. I know he was on council for 16 because I sat next to him there, but he was also on planning and zoning where I sat next to him. He's been involved in many decisions that have contributed to the quality of life we now enjoy in Cedar Falls. And most recently, he expressed to me his excitement about finally the riverfront improvements were getting closer to happening. I just wanted to say goodbye to Dave, and his fingerprints are all over this town.
Thank you very much. Yes, he passed away at the end of November. And certainly for me, having been his neighbor on council, I appreciated his input and sharing his ideas with me, and he'll be missed. So any other comments on that? So
big thanks to Dave.
Yeah. Other staff or other council updates?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Dunn.
Can we just have an update from staff about how what's the protocol, or how the ice rink down at Gateway Park gets done? I mean, obviously I know it needs to be freezing, but there was a question from a citizen today. And if we could just hear about the criteria for that, other than it needs to be cold.
Yeah, I can do that, Ms. Dunn. Yes, so each year staff puts up the forms and the liner and everything needed for the skating rink, as well as put some shielding on the sides of the shelter to protect it from wind for people to be able to put their skates on, and put some rubber mats down and things like that. But it's solely dependent on weather, that skating rink. And I know in the last few years we've had challenges with how many days it's been operational, because we'll have warmer days in the 40s, potentially even 50s, which melt it down, and then obviously it'll refreeze on the colder nights. So in the last few years we have had challenges with limited days of operation, but it is going up again this year for the citizens to use. Yep.
Thank you.
Any other council? All right, then I'll turn it over to staff updates. So Mr. Gaines, do you have anything to pass tonight?
So I don't know if I should do this like this, but I don't know if you guys have heard, but we've had a lot of concerns about the downtown parking. So during the next couple days, we're not going to have any enforcement down there.
Also, there was a note too, I was talking to staff today about additional signage that's being created for that area. So that'll be in the works as well. And anything else from staff? Okay. Then now we'll move over to public forum, where speakers will have an opportunity to speak for up to 5 minutes on topics germane to city business. So does anyone from the public wish to speak? Okay, I see Kim Bear, so go ahead, Ms. Bear. Name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Kim Bear, 3815 Union Road in Cedar Falls. I'm the Community Main Street Executive Director, and I have 2 things I want to touch on super quick. I wanted to say thanks to the public safety officers as well as Channel 15 for their coverage of the Holiday Hoopla Cruise. While not perfect, we were still able to bring Santa to town, and we are super grateful for your involvement and support of that event. And God willing, we will never have to do anything like that ever again. And then to the second topic, which obviously everyone is talking about, in regards to parking. I've had several conversations today about parking enforcement in the lots. And we did put it to a quick board vote just so that we could have some knowledge from the board side of things as far as Community Main Street goes. And we have 15 board members, 11 voted to agree to suspend or to support the suspension of paid parking in the downtown district until the pandemic is better under control and or proper signage for paid parking has been implemented. Obviously, the adverse to that would be continuing the current paid parking efforts in the downtown district. So as far as Community Main Street goes, we will support the Simon Harding and also Dave Sayers to put that resolution forward for that. They're just, a lot of businesses are truly struggling through, and what is typically a big revenue driver for them in this fourth quarter is seen to be even more difficult with just communication with the paid parking and the signage, which I've also talked to staff about as well. So I know it's been something that's in the works too. So that was all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Bear. Next we have Jeremy Salentic again. So Mr. Salentic, the floor is yours. Name and address for the record, please.
Hello.
Sorry, forgot to press the unmute button. Jeremy Selenick, 1008 Rockland Street, Cedar Falls. Okay, I've missed several meetings, and I've had some things I wanted to talk about, or one particular thing I want to talk about, and I don't know who has any control over this, if this is city staff that makes these calls, or if the city council has anything to do with this. But, you know, I work with handicapped people that are low income, and we run into this problem with affordable housing in Cedar Falls and Section 8. and this also falls into the, bringing in minorities into the community. In Waterloo, Section 8 is open most of the year. I mean, until they run out of funding or whatnot. But in Cedar Falls, to get Section 8 here, you've really got to be diligent about paying attention to when that open time period is. And, for bringing in diversity, diversity includes people of all income brackets. And that's keeping people out with lower incomes because they can't afford to live in Cedar Falls, and only giving them this little tiny window that they've got to be on top of the ball for. I think that kind of defeats the purpose of the diversity that we're looking for when the mayor's talking about supporting Black Lives Matter and all of that stuff. So, is there anything we can do about that? That's my question. Thank you.
Director Sheets, I might turn to you if you have some additional input on that or response.
Sure. Our Section 8 list, the waiting list is open. Anybody can apply for that. And in fact, using some CARES Act funds, we have made that open to apply electronically now for folks. There was a period for, I think it was about 9 months to maybe a year where we did have the list closed. It was due to the number of people that we had on the list and the amount of time that they had to wait in order to move up to the top. So we had more than enough on the list that we could service. Plus we were having a lot of staffing changes. And so continually having to take applications if we weren't going to be able to serve them, we asked council to close the list. And, council recently opened that list and it is available for people to sign up.
Okay.
It does not regularly open and close, though. I guess I should clarify. It's typically open.
Thank you, Director Sheets.
Mayor, the only other thing that I'd add on that is sometimes it really does depend on the number of landlords that want to be part of that program as well. And there are criteria that the facilities have to meet for them to be on that list. So I would suggest if Mr. Selinek had any other questions, that he could contact the Section 8 housing office or Director Sheets.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gaines. Next, I have with a hand raised phone number ending in 3167. So if you can please give name and address for the record. And again, that's 3167. Is that you, Mr. Skate?
Yes, yes.
My apologies. Go ahead, sir.
I have been interested in your International Human Rights Day declaration, and I followed along as it was being read. And I have to say that the language of the proclamation contrasts with reality, because the city council has committed and condoned the most severe cases of abuse and harassment imaginable.
That's a pretty inflammatory statement.
Yes, but I have a right. It's the First Amendment right, sir.
You don't, sir, not to make inflammatory statements at council.
Well, no, see, you're wrong. But anyway, let me finish. Let me finish my statement.
Please go ahead.
Firefighters have been harassed and fired or forced out of Cedar Falls. Personally, I was removed 4 times from the meeting when I had done nothing wrong. The last time, Jeff Olson injured my legs and caused them to be infected, and only now are the legs healing over a year later. The council should celebrate what it really is, the Inhuman Rights Day.
Thank you, Mr. Skane. So I'll comment too on his continual statements about Director Olson injuring him at a council meeting and that it was done without any cause. This was a a year, 2 years ago, he refused to leave council chambers after being directed properly to do so. And we did an investigation and found that there was no founding for Mr. Scanes' complaint. So I feel like I have to make a comment on this every time because he brings it up every time. And it's important that the record stays straight that there was no finding of any fault for Director Olson's actions. I have said for future actions, we won't have the public safety director or we'll have a uniformed officer take that action just to be totally above board and have body cameras running just to cover the city on this. But again, these statements from Mr. Skane are unfounded. So with that, I have, I believe everyone having spoken from public comment. I don't see any others. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, excuse me. I apologize. Before motion to adjourn, for staff, if we can't have council engaged in public forum responses, but would city staff have any comments for response before we motion? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? That passes. So we are adjourned. Thank you very much.